All right, what's up guys? Welcome back to the training. This one's going to be on the bid override table. We're going to cover some of the main features on how I like to use this. So I already went over in the original first video of this series kind of the way to get the top 20% of your keywords. If you haven't checked that out, I'm going to actually do it again here really quickly. So I've got my bulk file over here. Just going to go up to the bulk filters and actions, hit all enabled targets. All right, I'm going to click on column V. You see 2188. I think it works out to be 80% of that's a little over 1750 or something like that. So I'm going to go 8 orders. So yeah, 1743. So from there, you copy column AC and AD, that data there, hit Control C, go over to your bid override table. And what we're doing right now is assigning target level overrides. I'm actually going to leave a couple blank rows there because I'm going to put some portfolios in there. I'm going to hit Control Shift V. All right, for the blank ones, if you remember, you have to put in the word target because it's not a single SKU pane target. So I'm just going to quickly paste that here. All right, and then anytime you add anything to the bid override table, just go ahead and hit sync metrics. All right, and then when you get that prompt, go ahead and hit yes if you want to update the placement data as well, and you'll get a prompt. You can also update your bid preview if you have already optimized your bids, which I think I actually have in this example. So if I hit yes, hit OK, so there it actually pulls in the new optimized bid. If you change that to original, that's going to actually show you, you can come up and hit sync bid preview. That'll show you your original bid versus your new bid, which you can also see the cost per click that it's converted at in the past, whatever, 60 days, I think is my bulk file in this range. And then once you sync your bid metrics there in the bid override table, if you've got a single SKU campaign, you can actually come over here. This one's an ASIN target, but like this one here's a keyword. If you want to manually check your placement, so say you've got 5 or 6 single keyword exact campaigns, for example, that you're launching. All right, I'm back in action. Sorry, I found a error in my sample data, so campaign budgets and stuff weren't showing up. But as you can see now, when you sync the data for your bid override table data, your campaign budget will show up, and this is going to be the campaign budget for the campaign that this target's associated with. You've got some extra columns here. If you hit this plus button here, it's going to show you campaign name, portfolio name. There's actually ad group and the match type hidden as well, but these 3 are usually the main ones that you want to see. This column here you can use, if you right click in it, you can insert a note and just kind of keep track of things if you want on a kind of target by target basis. You've also got some custom columns if you hit that little plus button there that you can kind of write whatever you want. One thing I like to do sometimes is if you come up with a good kind of sort order, you can do like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then just sort that by that A to Z, that column, and that'll kick the bid override table into kind of a custom sort. The tags are really helpful. So here, since they're the top kind of 20%, I'll usually tag these as top 20%, and you can see some of them are colored by default. You can obviously change the font color, whatever you want, but I'll do something like that usually. And then I'll add kind of my top CVR or top converting targets as well. If I'm testing some campaigns, sometimes I'll do campaign level overrides for testing. You can do a portfolio for testing, but I'll tag those accordingly. There's also some other custom columns if you want to kind of tag things a little bit more detailed. You can use those however you want. But that's basically the process of adding targets to the bid override table. Now let me go ahead and add a portfolio. So if you go over to the labs tab, we keep a copy just for reference of the portfolios used. So you can see right now one of them by default is the defensive targeting in this account. So what you can do is, I'll go over these quick sorts in another video, but you can Control Shift V the ID. And let me enable my menu one more time. And then if I go up to Labs, Portfolio, Quick Sort, Show on List, hit yes, this is going to show me all the campaigns associated with that portfolio and kind of give me all of the campaign level data underneath it as well. So it's not just going to display the campaign level row, it'll show me kind of everything associated with that portfolio. So if we're pretending that these are all defensive campaigns, which they're really not, this is again sample data, so it's a little bit ambiguous, but let's pretend these are all defensive campaigns and we want to bid accordingly, or let's pretend they're branded campaigns. That's a little more applicable. So I copy the portfolio ID, go over to my bid override table. I'm going to hit Control-Shift-V for the override, and I'm going to put a portfolio type on them. And let's go ahead and grab another one, and we'll pretend those are defensive. So actually I called that one defensive. So let me pretend this one here is the branded. All right, so I will put this one here, and I'm going to call this branded, and I'm going to call this, what did I say, defensive. All right, I'm going to put portfolio here, and typically for branded keywords you do get a very good performance. So let's go ahead and sync these, and this is going to tell us at the portfolio level what the metrics are. And because the portfolios aren't really probably associated with what I'm saying they are, the metrics could be all over the place. But in general, let's pretend that this branded one that we've identified is performing really well, which right now it's 39%. So it's not, so that didn't update there because I haven't ran the optimization, so it doesn't have a new bid to input. But what I wanted to show you is, let's pretend that, actually let's flip these. I'm a perfectionist and it's annoying me. So let's say that this one's branded, this one's defensive, just because the metrics would usually look something like this on the branded. So for here, if this was my account, I would put all the branded terms in one portfolio, put that at $2, which is well above my cost per click. So every branded term is basically going to be a $2 bid, and it's going to be dynamic down only, so it's not what I'm going to always be spending. But the idea is you'd want to always show up for your branded keywords, and they always be, you know, really good performing. So that's fine. You don't want your competitors stealing those spots. For defensive, what I would usually do is assign my bid inputs. So I cleared out my bid inputs from the initial video. Let me go ahead and reset these. And then for my max bid, I think I had, what, $2 for that. But what I wanted to show you is for the defensive, what I would typically do is a bit more aggressive, just because you want, if you have multiple products, you want them to show up on your listing. It kind of creates a spider's web effect of all your products, and just really helps with PPC conversions in general if you do that. So let's say I'm going to bid more aggressive with these. And what this increased bid by affects is any target that is converting that at least has a sale or is less than this mid A cost. It's going to boost that bid by a percentage. So here's where you can get a little bit more aggressive if you want. So the idea is for the defensive, I would typically run a more aggressive bid settings, just so I can make sure you know, all my products are showing up on my product listings and my competitors aren't kind of overtaking my product listing. So again, you can kind of manually check your product pages themselves to see how your defensive campaigns are performing and then adjust accordingly. But the idea is the bids within these portfolios now are going to be governed by these formula-based bid inputs, and then this branded portfolio is going to be governed by this bid override. Even though we have these formulas set over here, these inputs set, because we've got this bid override set, it takes precedence over anything over here on the right. So this column here can also be used for like top of search targets that you never want to let anybody else have access to. You can always bid high just by setting that value well above your cost per click. You can also, you know, kind of in combination use the placement modifiers if that higher bid isn't getting you the placement you want. And so your placement metrics are off here to the right. Keep in mind these are campaign level metrics, so you could have other keywords that are factoring into these numbers, where these over here in blue that we're looking at are the actual target level metrics. So these go just with that target if you're if you got a target level override. Here up here is for portfolios, so these go with everything associated with that portfolio. So it's a bit of a difference on what we're looking at here, but you can get the gist, especially if you've got single keyword campaigns, then the placement metrics are obviously accurate, correlating to that specific target since it's the only one in there. And then the difference in that scenario between your product pages plus your top of search compared to these metrics over here would be your rest of search placement metrics. So anyway, so what I wanted to illustrate is when I optimize now. So if I hit that, hit yes, we're going to find that all of our branded now terms in this portfolio are going to be bid at $2, and anything in our portfolio defensive portfolio is going to be governed by the formula inputs we set. All right, so now if I search for this portfolio, I'm just going to go over here, and because I want to see all the keywords. All right, you can see pretty much everything is set at $2 now, which is exactly what we wanted. Now if we go to the defensive, all right, and the bid adjustment for the Apex algorithm is just going to affect enabled targets. So some of these paused ones aren't going to see any change, but any with orders especially, or you can see this one bumped up by a penny just because it doesn't have hit the impression threshold yet. But this one down here, let's look at that. Okay, so 26.9. This is within this, but it probably has this one probably has a target level bid override because it had 36 orders. So you can quickly check just by coming down here, hitting Control-Shift-V, and if it turns red, which it does, then we can go up and see why that one did not change. Okay, so because it's less than the 27% is less than 30%, the way this works, it takes the cost per click, which is 82. And this is just getting into bid formulas a little bit in this video. We'll have another one going into it a lot more. So 0.82 times 1 point, in this case 1, because it's a 10% increase, that gives us 0.9 or 90 cents. So we can bring that in since we've already optimized. This is set to new. I'm just going to go up here. I'm just kind of illustrating some multiple features here in one. Hitting sync bid preview, and this is going to import our current bid for all these targets. So we can just easily see and get a correlation. All right, so 90 cents. So that's the calculation that's being done. All right, so because this is a target level override within that portfolio, these are going to be over here the bid settings that takes precedence over that portfolio, because when we click on here, we see that the target is above the campaign, which is above the portfolio. So, all right, so hopefully that makes sense on assigning portfolio level bidding. You can do the same thing with obviously campaigns. If you have a campaign that you want to kind of simplify and just set bid settings based on that. Some people will set up a portfolio per like SKU or ASIN. You can also not assign any bid inputs and use the bid override table just to monitor metrics. So that can be helpful, especially with the new target sniper tool, which I'm not going to cover in this video, but basically when they're yellow like this, that means that there's no bid input settings applied, but you can still kind of monitor the metrics there, keep track of notes. You can do that with, obviously campaigns, targets, what have you. And when you optimize using the Apex formula, basically if there's no criteria associated with, in this case, there's some targets in this case that are within these portfolios, so those bids would get changed, but anything that does not have criteria applied will not get changed. So usually the safest, if you want to use Apex for monitoring and not as much bid manipulation, is also remove your account level row like that. So that turns yellow. And then in this case, the only stuff that's going to get changed would be anything we have target level overrides applied, or anything in single SKU campaigns. And that's because we currently have the SKU dashboard enabled. So if you want to disable that, you can do that as well just by unchecking there. So some users just use Apex for kind of oversight of their account, and with some of the analytics and slick features we have there, or maybe they use it just to manage launches, manage testing. You can really segment Apex in a a lot of different ways and structure it in a lot of different ways. So kind of what I went over is just my preference, not as necessarily how every user sets it up. So feel free to be creative with it. But other than that, the target sniper feature is the main one that I haven't covered, which is going to have its own video. And that pretty much covers the bid override table. So, all right, guys, I will see you on the next video. Thanks.